I I have a DNA test done, and this is, I have over 2/3 of my blood are indigenous, or my DNA are indigenous. My grandparents were indigenous people, and they belong to the Cañari people. The Cañari people is a group that is found in south of the equator. So I'm from here, from this area, in South America, and but also I have Spanish blood, right? Because at some point there were marriage between them, right? And also, but on my mom's side, I'm also Spanish, right? On my mom's side, but in my dad's side, I'm a Cañari people or Cañari person. Yeah, and that's when you have like a pool of, for example, let's say that one of my ancestors, a Spanish ancestor, may have had a DNA or blood from that particular area, right? So
yeah.
And I still have some I still have cultural traditions of my people, and that's why I always like to talk to people and learn about their culture. And then I saw this post in Nature Jobs, and I said, okay, I need some documents on my ID. I had my ID, but I needed something legal, an official document. So I went to the Ecuadorian consulate in Vancouver, that was not located in Vancouver. It was located in Burnaby, and then it moved to Port Coquitlam nowadays. So last time that I heard it moved to Port Coquitlam or Coquitlam in BC. Then I rode the bus. Sometimes I rode with my older child, and to say, I need the official documentation from the Ecuadorian government, because that was one of the requirements, to present official documentation.
Yep.
And then I went to the Ecuadorian consulate and I asked, can I please have an official ID? And they, at the time, I remember, they told me, no, the Ecuadorian government considers you Ecuadorian, no matter if you are indigenous, Montubio, Black Ecuadorian, or a Caucasian person. They said, we are all Ecuadorians, So I took the subject to the embassy in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
I called the embassy. I said, you know what? I only need your help. I'm not asking you for money. I'm not asking you for anything. I only need my ID, my legal ID, my official ID. And they told me, you have your passport, but you know where I'm coming from or where I am from. I need my ID. And then after I probably did 2 phone calls, but they helped me. And they called the consulate in Vancouver or in BC, and they smooth things there. And then they gave me the document that I requested. So with that document, I was able to apply, right? And say, okay, I have all the documents. I have put together the application. Many people read my application from my job place at the time in BC. Even my former postdoctoral advisor read it. I applied to the job, and then they called me for the interview. I didn't have my expectations high because, I had already gone to a different interview, not here in Manitoba, but the interview that I went, it was a setup. They had already somebody in mind for that position, and that one also broke my heart, or discouraged me a little bit. So that's why I said, I didn't have my expectation high. But I said, okay, no matter what, I will do it. I will do it. I came to the interview. It was 3 days interview, meeting with the students, meeting with the faculty members. My advisor, even in the States, told me, read the profiles of the people that you're going to meet, so you can have a heads up of what type of research, even though that you probably will never know in details what they do, but at least you have an idea of what they do, right? If they work with Salmonella, those are names of microbes, right? If they work with Pseudomonas, if they work with Klebsiella or Legionella, or if they do water research, right? I also remember that the last day of the interview, we went to a very fancy restaurant, and I saw the bill. We came back, and when I went to the hotel, I cried. But anyway, so, and I said, whatever it happens, and then I went back to Vancouver with my family, and I waited probably 6 weeks. And I remember I got an email probably in the mid-December, telling me that I had been offered the position. So that day I just stopped working, and I had my pursuit of happiness moment, and I went home. I basically I shut down the lab or whatever I was doing, and I went there, and I told my wife, I did it, we did it, and probably a few days later I was signing the offer letter, and that's why, for me, many people told me, oh, it's cold. Yes, it's cold, right? But here I have a life. Here I can pursue bigger dreams, right? And that's why I don't take anything for granted. I hope I'm doing a good job here at the University of Manitoba, forming my group, and and also that also was difficult because initially during the first 2 years found a good supportive department, the Department of Microbiology. They're always very supportive. Even at some times, we had a car accident. My car got total. Nobody got injured, and they lent me a car, to be riding with my whole family, until we bought a car. So, but anyway, those little things, even the people in my department are very supportive to the point that they even lend me the parking spots, because it's been it's been ups and downs. My wife, we thought that she had bone cancer, but actually ended up being benign. So I had a break, or a kind of a class break in late 2021 because of my family situation, and ended up being benign. So, but I think it's called Cancer Care Manitoba. They were also very, very helpful with my wife. They help us, to have peace of mind. They said, what, in 3 weeks we will do the surgery, and that was it. The benign tumor was removed.
Amazing to know.
Sorry?
That's amazing to know.
Yeah. And because when we started to read about bone cancer, that's what ended up the life of Terry Fox, right?
Yeah.
And I always thought the worst that it could happen, but that's why I'm saying, life is ups and downs. It has its ups and downs. Fail a grade, or if you miss something, that's not the end of the world. I would say life is like a roller coaster, right? And there is ups and downs every day. Here I have, 2 years later, after I landed here, I got my Answer Discovery grant. I got Research Manitoba grant, to have helped me a lot, to conduct studies with the city of Winnipeg, with the First Nations communities here. And I am not naming the community because they have requested to remain anonymous, but I am also very thankful because of that, because they helped me, or I started to interact with them with nobody, I didn't have external funding, everything happened during the pandemic, that I started to do collaboration with these community, and they tell me, hey, can you track the SARS-CoV-2 in our community? And I say, yes, I can do that. With molecular biologists, right? Back to the States. But I was able to work with them. So, and even, that is 2 hours away from Winnipeg, I consistently go to the community every month, no matter what, no matter if it's cold, no matter if it's snow, no matter if there is wind. I go there, I interact with them. When I go to the field and I interact with community members or with the operators of the drinking water and the wastewater treatment plants, because that's where we conduct our research to try to see, the microbes that are present there, as well as antibiotic resistant genes, that could be released into the environment and may cause harm, right? But to make the long story short, when we go to the field with my students, I'm no longer Dr. Miguel. I'm Miguel, and that's how I have been learning also from their way of living or their culture. Like they prefer to be called their way of living, and which is very important also for us to learn.
Absolutely.
And
That does
Uh-huh.
bring me to my next question of how can non-Indigenous members at the university and at the Faculty of Science learn more about Indigenous science and raise awareness around it?
Is to gain trust from them. Always communicate to them what are you planning to do, because if you are if you don't communicate what you're planning to do and you are doing anything under the table, it will be very disappointing for them, that and I think it's called biopiracy, and there have been many cases reported, especially from indigenous communities worldwide. There are people who say, oh no, like even in Ecuador, there were scientists who went there and they said, oh no, we're just gonna check your blood, and they started to do to analyze the DNA for what type of the genome was different, right? So, and they started to see, oh, these people could be less prone to these particular diseases, and maybe we can do certain genetic manipulation and use their genomes, right? So, and they never were told about that. But talking back about the biopiracy issue, always communicate. In this case, I use a non-invasive approach because I'm looking for water upstream of the system, before it goes into the mouth, and also after the water is or the wastewater goes into the lagoon, right, or to be treated, because it needs to be treated before it's released or discharged into the aquatic environment. So the main thing I would say is learn about their way of living, follow the OCA principles, and respect their knowledge, right? Because even sometimes, even for everybody, when we go to the field, they say, you know what, we shouldn't go in this way, we should take this pathway, or you know what, there have been wildlife like black bear sightings, so they always, go with us, or sometimes, when we need to find somebody in a specific, we go we go to the community center where they usually they are very helpful, helping us in this case, right? But the most important part, I will say, is to be open also about their ideas, because in the same way that everybody has their own point of view, we are going into their lands, we're going to their community, right? And that's why communication is very is the key, right? And be also open, because when we go there, we also learn, about their way of living, right? Their culture, and I always, like to talk to them about different topics, not only about how the wastewater or the drinking water system operates, but also about their culture, and that's also for me a experience, that will stay with me probably until I'm old, so until I die. But I hope I die at an old age with all my five senses. But but yeah, it's in that way, communication is the key, because I always, every time that we go to the community, we communicate, we tell them, will you be okay if we go that particular day? And they say, okay, you know what, it's not a good time because we are busy with our work, right? Because they also have their jobs. They usually tell us, okay, you can come this day, right? And then we go, we talk to them, we interact with them. That's probably the most important part, to rely on their expertise, on their traditional knowledge, and as one of them told me, welcome to Turtle Island. And then, as part of my interaction with them, I said, why you call it, at the time I didn't know why they call it Turtle Island. It's actually the shape, right? If you look the geography, it has the shape of a turtle, right? Yeah, right. So I say, okay, I see, and then that's how, I have, probably that's why I have stuck with the community that for always welcome us. They treat us good, and we also have to respect their wishes, because they say, you know what, we help you, but we would like to remain anonymous. And I say, okay, fair enough. I will acknowledge that, and I actually acknowledge that in a formal communication. So respect that, because sometimes I did get asked questions from them. Ask me, can you track human DNA? And actually, that's a good question. But while it can be possible, my main interest is in the viruses that infect bacteria and bacteria per se, not in the human DNA. It is possible, for sure, but the information belongs to them, and actually that's something that, for publication purposes, we cannot release that information without their consent. And actually, we have to hand it out the file, so that will be generated over the course of this research to them, right? And because they are the owners of that information. But yes, we adhere to the Tri-Council policies when it comes to work with the First Nations communities. And actually, there is possibilities to expand the work that we're conducting. But some of these, probably two of these communities are a little bit far north, and logistic could be an issue. At least, if I could have all the resources available, sure, we could do it. But also that will imply that we'll have also to kind of start the communication again and see if they are still willing to conduct this type of work in the north, right? In this community where we have contact, or we had contact at some point in the previous 2 years. But so far, I will I will say the key is respect, right? That's the key, and I would say there is I think that's from BC. Respect is the glue that keep us together.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful quote.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. Thank you so much for sharing your journey so vulnerably. Thank you so much for giving us advice.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. For me, it's also I'm still learning. My students are also, for them, it's also a learning experience because, it's all not work in the lab, process the DNA, process the samples. Um, we also send a report to the community regarding the water quality after the samples are collected, right? That's the type of agreement that we have. But my students also do computer work by statistics, bioinformatics, visualization tools, to try to represent the best way possible the information that is generated through these high throughput sequencers. So they also, for them, is an experience to go to the field, interact with people, see what,
Yep.
it's not just get the sample, it's actually talk to the primary users or to the owners of those lands, right? So that's I would like to point that out. And so that's why probably I have stuck with the community since the pandemic. And actually, I'm very grateful for that, that they opened their doors for me and my lab members, and as I always tell them, to the community, you guys, you make a big difference in my life and in the life of all these students that come with me every time here, and that's why I'm very grateful for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us. Thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.